20 to 30 minutes.
The siren is going off in Worthington now.
Do you want me to wait, John?
No.
Well,
I didn't know you could hear me. I'm sorry.
that's okay. Our bell has been damaged. It's a sad day. I guess it's like our Liberty Bell. Oh well. All right.
What a student of history.
Yeah. All righty, everybody. For guests and visitors, my name is Steve Fairley, Club President, and I'd like to welcome you all to the 30th meeting of the 47th year of the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. And I'd like to remind everybody that we are in Worthington, Ohio, and the city does still have a mask mandate in place. So if you are not eating, please try to keep your mask on as much as possible.
Oh my God.
All right, and now we have the invocation and pledge of allegiance, and that will be offered by Al Wu.
Let us pray. Father, please enlighten our minds with truth, inflames our heart with love, inspire our wills with courage, enrich our lives with service, pardon that we have been sanctified or who we are, and order what we shall be. In your name we pray. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Al. Wait a minute. Wonder why I didn't sound so boomy and loud. Hello. There we go. Now I'm back. Okay. President-elect Teresa, would you introduce any visiting Rotarians and or guests?
A visiting Rotarian, Terry
Radizak.
Yes. From Marietta, president of Marietta. Right?
Yeah.
And then our other guests will be introduced as a speaker.
Right.
I don't think we have anybody else online.
I think we got to do our one clap welcome, right? For a visiting Rotarian. Let's see if we can do it. 1, 2, 3. That's a good one.
Like 2 years. Just so you know.
I'm bringing it back.
But we don't have visiting Rotarians.
All right. Our sergeant today, I think, is Teresa.
Oh my gosh, I got it. Very good.
You win the day.
So we need a person to carry the pot. Andrew, thank you for volunteering. You're my rising star volunteer. Here, you don't have to go all the way.
Oh, there.
Okay, does everybody know what February 9th is known for? Today is National what Day? National what Day?
Donut Day?
No. It's National Pizza Day.
Oh.
So, does anybody plan to go out and have pizza for dinner? Raise your hand. Oh, well then you can afford a fine. Put $1 in. And I do have to say, everybody who participated in some way, whether behind the scenes or day of the bowling tournament, raise your hand. The people with their hands not up, you're fine. You should be involved. And then I went ahead too far. We'll get to happy dollars in a minute. There is another national day of, it's National Repurpose Your Wardrobe Day. Has anybody ever gone thrifting or consignment shopping? Raise your hand. If you haven't, it's an experience. Put $1 in. Now we'll get to happy dollars. Who has happy dollars?
No, I could.
Anybody online have happy dollars?
I got it.
Go ahead over there.
I got a feeling that within the next 2 meetings, we can burn these masks in the parking lot.
That's a great happy dollar. Anybody else in the room have a happy dollar?
I'm going to put in a happy dollar for Jim Farmer because I know he's happy.
I'll match that.
Good. Anybody online have a happy dollar? Quiet group today. All right, that's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Teresa. All right, we've got a lot of announcements today. Rich, can I volunteer you to go first?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, most of you probably have seen a couple of documents that Steve or Katie circulated. The district, again, for the month of February, is doing a matching points program for the International Foundation. So the minimum contribution that'll be matched is $100, and it goes all the way up to $1,000. And just keep in mind, though, that this, if you decide to do this, which I think is a great deal, and remember, you know, all the great programs that the International Foundation support, that it has to go through the district contact person, Bill Shorthill. His mailing address is provided on the form. And again, this is, the goal is, whether you already have a Paul Harris Fellow or would like to get one, and I think most in the room know what that is, but just briefly, Paul Harris Fellow is basically a recognition or an award for giving at least $1,000 to the International Foundation. You're honored with both a certificate and pin, and it's just a really good thing to do. It's a great way to support the International Foundation. So let's say if anyone in the room has not made a contribution at all, or let's say you've already got your Paul Harris Fellow and are starting anew, with a $500 donation to the International Foundation through Mr. Shorthill, once the district would match it, you would qualify for another Paul Harris Fellow. Just contact me and I'll help arrange to get the certificate and pin issued. You have until February 28, 2000 this year to postmark anything that you would send to him. So if anyone has any questions about this or needs any help in getting this done, please let me know. And I should mention, I've been remiss, there are, we have 5x5 clubs where 5 members of the club over 5 years contributes $200 a year, and each year, in theory, there's a winner picked. Been somewhat remiss during the pandemic to recognize those people. So I will be doing that in the next few weeks and also helping them get their Paul Harris Fellow. So thank you for your time, and anybody has any questions about the International Foundation, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that. Jim Farmer, do you have an announcement? Excellent.
Just want to briefly summarize what happened at Super Bowling Saturday. We ended up with 16 lanes of bowlers. 27 people in the club either purchased or sold lane sponsorships. Another 15 worked before or during the event. And as a result, we made just under $6,000. So give yourselves a hand. Good job.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to everybody that participated on that, especially Jim for coordinating it. I think, I mean, it's just going to continue growing in success. We've already seen a lot of great ideas back and forth after the fact. I think it's going to be a really, shining jewel for our club going forward. So thanks everybody for participating. Teresa, okay.
I don't have enough for everybody, but will you pass those out to the 2 tables? So I'm going to talk, give me one. I'm going to talk about the concept of a satellite club. We've been kicking this idea around, and Steve Heiser, our prior district governor, really wants us to promote a satellite club concept. What it does for us is it's an extension of our club to reach into markets that traditionally can't come in to be a Rotarian. It's people that work during the day, can't make our lunch meetings, can't make a meeting every week. Maybe they want to do something a little more contemporary. We're thinking of starting with our group and our club, with asking if people would be interested in reaching to their family members first to see if they would be interested in being a Rotarian, if it looked a little differently, and they could customize and set their own schedule, make up their own projects and do their own service work. We would share our service projects with them. They would co-share their service projects with us. So I want to just hand out, I don't have one for everybody, but there's a FAQ sheet that talks in more detail. And I just want to get the club's concept of whether or not we would be interested in entertaining the idea. And Steve Heiser would be a next step to reach out to those family members with a are you interested call. Definitely doesn't mean that he's going to strong arm them and harass them into becoming a Rotarian, but just to gauge some interest. So that's my first announcement. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
How is it different from the time when you spun off the morning club in Worthington and the morning club in Dublin?
It does not. We hope they stay and get folded back into our club in some way, but if they want to spin off, it's an 8-person club minimum to start. And if they grow and want to maintain a larger number and branch off, that's their right to be able to do that.
Did you already say that their members count as members in our club?
I did not say that. Their members would count in membership for our club.
Why is Steve Heiser making the call instead of somebody from our club?
He is going around the entire district trying to promote it.
Why is he making calls for our club instead of somebody in our club?
He's offered to do that because he's most informed. If you would rather it be a point person through you,
that's
he's
fine.
Yeah.
I would rather have somebody from our club show the satellite to our club.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's fine with that. Well, there are the Rotary dues. It's on the FAQ sheet. You didn't get one yet. They do have their Rotary dues, and then what other dues they would want to incur.
International dues.
Correct.
Are there club dues?
They would make up their own club dues.
Different than what we pay?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
They have officers on board as well.
Yes, they would, and they would represent somebody on our board, and we would probably have somebody from our club on their board. Any questions online? Okay. Yes, Andrew.
When are you looking to start this?
Well, we're hoping to kick it off soon. We need to get some growth in the club, and that was one way we thought of being able to do that. Although we did get some interest from people that bolt on Saturday that are looking at our club. Anybody else?
Just so folks know, this is a board issue. And what we're just trying to find out is, are you interested at all? Because the board has not approved this or disapproved this. It's an opportunity to increase membership in a different way. And they're autonomous. They do their own thing. So if you have thoughts about it, you need to make them known so that the board can act responsibly and represent the membership. And the information I think that you're handing out, we'll be emailing that out to folks or no?
Yeah. So I'm thinking now as we're talking through this, the next step might be to hold just kind of a forum. Anybody that's interested in learning more and talking about it and asking questions as a club, we can get together and just talk about it. Because really what Jerry said is we need to decide if we're interested as a club and then approve that or disapprove that at the board level before we can really move forward. But the last thing I want to do, and I think neither Teresa does either, is move forward with some initiative that this club really doesn't want to do. So we're kind of in the fact finding phase.
Perfect wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more announcement. So as we move into a new presidential year, president-elects in Ohio have a service project that has been handed to us, and we are asked to participate on a competitive nature to see if we can do more of the service project than other clubs. So this year's project is going to be making blankets for a nonprofit organization called My Very Own Blanket. Jessica Rudolph is currently president of the Rotary Club of the Columbus Short North. And she has a nonprofit organization where blankets are donated, blankets are made, blankets are brought in, and they are distributed to foster children. So it's the one thing as they bounce around from home to home that they have that they can take and keep as their own. So we are being asked to participate. If you want to, great. If you don't, it's not necessary, but I'm going to pass along the sign-up sheet. And there's 3 ways to donate. You can make your own blanket. So Jim Farmer, if that's something that you're good at that we didn't know, you could make your own blanket.
I can assure you that I'm not.
There is a no-sew blanket option, and the little ones where you tie them together, and that's an option, or you could donate $10 and other people will make the blankets for you. So I'll pass around the sign-up sheet, whichever option you choose. We will email you more information on how to get that started. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we got a question over there.
Go ahead, Rob.
Can we do that as a club project? Is that something we could do at a meeting?
If you'd like.
Is the club willing to purchase so many blankets and maybe we do it as a project?
I think if we have people that are interested in doing the making, we can create that.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Sounds like a
Just a thought.
What month is this? February?
They're due March 9th.
Yeah.
We don't have much time. I'll help you.
Yeah, I could see that being a quick social
I think
project.
that's
Yeah,
okay.
so if you're interested, put your name down and then we can take it to the board next week and see if we can get some funds approved. Thanks, Rob.
No, I think they, Steve, they used the same nonprofit about 3 years ago as one of the President-elect's projects. The club members made donations and the club made a donation too. Do you remember that, Jerry?
Yes.
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 That's Darnell's project. Tell us about it, Darnell. Blanket, the blanket project.
I have no idea what it was.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Darnell.
Well, apparently it wasn't Jerry either.
Well, no, I remember the project. I just don't remember all the details. I really thought that we didn't make blankets, we paid for blankets. But yeah.
So maybe we could do a, I don't know, I'm not gonna make any promises now, but maybe some sort of matching. Whatever club members come up with, maybe the board can match. But the board will figure it out. Let the club know. You got another one?
I have one more brief bowling announcement.
Oh, okay.
This year we figured out how to do handicaps for social bowlers. So through the magic of handicaps, a very unsuspecting member of our club, her team won second place or first place, I believe it was, on the team level. So Jennifer Best, come up here.
Oh, man. Put the ringers on that thing.
What kind of goodies?
Jennifer probably donated the bag.
Yeah, Jennifer, did you just get all your stuff back? Is that?
Yeah.
What's in there? Give us an idea. It looks like a book.
So there's a candle.
A candle.
There's a book about don't let go.
Very healing. Okay.
An author my husband reads. There's Cheryl's cookies that I donated.
Nice.
There's a Buckeye potato head. Didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
A growing duck.
Growing duck.
Okay, and candy. That'll be good.
Yeah.
Lots of candy.
Candy's a win.
So it's all good.
Excellent.
Halloween.
Right. It's still.
All kinds of fun stuff.
What was this the prize for the losing team? I'm a little confused.
No, it's the winning team, John. Those are good prizes. Yes.
I just want to add that my husband won first place. Did he not?
Oh.
So this is second place.
Ah.
Oh.
Wow.
What was the prize for first place? Do I even want to know?
It's the same thing. You get the
Oh,
same
It's
bag.
the same kind of
Yeah. Excellent. Oh, you got a crown. That's worth it. Yes, you did. Harry won the 50-50. What was it? $228, I think it was. That was a good haul. Okay. Last announcement that I'm aware of. So elections. I'll take full blame for that. We're way behind on elections. But you know, it's COVID and it's been weird. But we are going to have an election. I guess it's at this point probably going to be a formality. So I will be sending an email with a form that you can basically cast your vote on. It'll be for board members. And so we have, you know, 2 members who've graciously agreed to stay on for a 2nd term, and they are Christy Bruffy and Jennifer Best. So let's thank them, give them a round of applause. And bittersweet, however, is that we will be losing 2 great board members, and that would be Chuck Gibson and Courtney Chapman. So thanks to both of them for their service. So thanks, Chuck, and thanks, Court. Where's Court? There he is. I knew I saw him. And then, you know, with all bad news, sometimes there's a silver lining. So we do have 2 new board members that agreed to join us, and that would be Andrew Singholt and Darnell Perkins, and we're very excited to have them on the board. So let's thank them. And so, like I said, you know, technically we do need to vote all these changes in. So I will be sending an email that will allow us to do that voting. You should see it the next day or so. So thank you. All right, lots of announcements today, but I think we're now finally ready for our program. And I'll turn it over to Wynn Wixel to introduce our speaker. Did you have a PowerPoint? No, okay.
Okay. This week we kind of turn towards Valentine's Day. You know, you have festivals honoring soldiers, Constitution, Labor Day. This is a special vacation because a special festival event, I guess I'd call it, because we're honoring intimacy, we're honoring love, and the heart part of our existence. You know, when you get out in the world today, it's an awful lot of me versus thee. And there's a lot of business formality, but then again, there's intimacy. And you know, by the way, there's 12 intimacies. We're not just talking about the physical. There's work intimacy, play intimacy, aesthetic intimacy, differences intimacy. Hey, can you fight and still feel like you're joined with another person? There's sports, you know, hey, I want to go out and play golf, and I play with Dave every week. So the connectedness of love and is kind of, to me, intertwined into the Valentine's Day moment. And it's 5 days from now. So we thought maybe we'd wake everybody up and say, hey, have you looked in your special other's eyes lately to see their soul, who they are? Or is it all just business and you kind of brush that aside? So that today with that, I have asked, George and I have asked Reverend Glenn Miles from First Community Church to give us some thoughts on how we might address this day, add to it. So without any other ado, I want to tell you a little bit about Glenn first. He grew up in California, so his behavior is molded with a lot of California thinking. His father was a preacher, so he's a preacher's kid. He started out desiring teaching, and he wanted to be a basketball coach. Before he graduated, somebody came to him and said, hey, would you be a youth minister for our church? And so he got introduced to the interplay of work and the spiritual life. And they liked him that well. They said, hey, we're going to sponsor you in part if you would go into the ministry. So that's kind of his upbringing in a short way. He's lived in 14 houses doing ministry from Kansas City, wasn't it? It was his last church, and then we invited him to come to our church, and he is preaching with a lot of inclusive and love, you know, eye contact, and just the heartfulness. So without any further ado, I'm going to ask Glenn to come up. Please give him a round of our Rotary applause.
Is that up high enough? Can you hear me okay? Good. Is that clear? Yep. Thank you, Wayne, and thank you all for the invitation. I do want to let you know a couple of things before I begin. My glasses broke. These are my wife's readers. Speaking of intimacy, how do they look? They look okay? Yeah. Is this my color? Yeah. I wanted to be sure that I had the right color on today for sure for you all. And then the other thing is, I spoke on this topic to your club 3 years ago. So I'm wondering a couple things. Either I failed or you failed to understand, or we failed together. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I'm glad to be here again. And the title of this little talk is You Can't Hurry Love, Finding Courage, the courage that we need in order to be loving persons. How many of you recognize the title, You Can't Hurry Love? Who sang it?
Supremes.
The Supremes with?
Diana Ross.
Diana Ross. What are the next 3 lines? You can't hurry love.
Oh, no, you can't hurry love.
You just have to wait.
Yeah.
You just have to wait. You can't hurry love. There's a writer that I love who says, who I really appreciate, who says that we suffer from hurry sickness these days, that we're always in a hurry. If you're on the freeway, if you're on the side street, if you're in the grocery store, if you're at the mall, if you're at church, like where I find myself all the time, we're constantly in a hurry. And it's funny, he understands that 50 years ago or so, back in the late 60s, there was an article in Time magazine. Some of you may remember seeing this. It was written by some computer scientists and others who were saying basically things are going to happen so differently in the future that when we get to the future, we're going to have cell phones, we're going to have computers, we're going to have all these things that will make our lives so much simpler and slower. And we're going, in fact, they even went to Congress and presented to Congress and said, as a nation of leaders, as the leaders of our nation, we've really got to consider what's going to happen 30, 40, 50 years from now when people are only needing to work 10 or 20 hours a week. I think this proves why you should not try to predict the future, number one, because all those things have done is made us hurry more. How many of you have been in a conversation with somebody and they pulled out their phone? Only 1 or 2? Honestly, how many have been? Yeah. You don't have to raise your hand on this one, but just ask yourself, how many times have you pulled out your phone in a conversation with somebody you deeply cared about? You know, there's some research that was done that said that couples who on dates together, let's say you're out with your significant other, somebody you deeply care about, your spouse, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is, that couples that bring out their phone, if one person brings out their phone during that conversation, the research says already the other person's angry. Already the other person is upset. Already the other person is wondering why you don't care about them. I mean, it's a great thing to have. I've got one in my pocket. I keep it in my pocket all the time. It buzzes and gives me alerts. Sometimes it connects to my watch. You have the watch thing too going. It connects to my watch. Oftentimes on a Sunday morning, I'll be preaching and my watch will buzz and I'll look at it real quick just to see who it is. And it's my wife saying, "You're really bad today. Do something else." That's not true. But I do wonder, you know, I hear the buzz, I feel the vibration, wherever it might be. I think, oh, is somebody trying to get to me? What's going on? It's the hurry sickness in our culture is overwhelming. And what it does is it gets in the way of what Wynn began with. It gets in the way of intimacy. Couples who can put the phones aside, who can turn off the televisions, who can close the computers and pay attention to each other. And this works in friendship relationships. Have a deeper sense of intimacy. When we get into that hurry sickness and we're not paying attention to the other person, there's almost a monster that emerges from us. One of my favorite writers tells a story about an elderly couple who was on a plane and really severely irritating this business person who was sitting right in front of them. They were all in first class, but this businessman was really upset with this elderly couple because he'd gotten behind them in the security line and they didn't know what to do. Have you ever been behind somebody in security who doesn't know what to do? They forgot to take off their shoes. They go back and take off their shoes. They didn't put the right things. They didn't empty out their pockets. They didn't have their belts off. And this guy was just anxious and irritated and come on, I can't believe it. It's taking forever to get through security. You know, he had everything organized and ready to go. Then they get on the plane and they're sitting right behind him. And he's still irritated at him. You can just tell he's agitated. He's complaining to the flight attendant. These people are so slow, which is kind of like, what's the big deal? You both got on the plane, you're fine. But he was irritated, angry, upset. Well, this is a long flight, an international flight, and dinner was being served. When it came time for dinner, the elderly couple, the man, got up to get his bag out of the overhead bin because they take medications with their food. It's part of what they, I do that these days. Now I have to take medication at breakfast and medication at dinner with food. Well, the man was really super slow. And because he was so slow, trying to find his bag, the flight attendant couldn't get to the businessman in front of him. And now he's getting irritated again. I can't believe you people. Why do you even bother to fly? This is insane. Well, finally he gets his stuff out. They sit down. But the business guy, he's ticked. He leans his seat back real hard. And that dumps the dinner of the elderly man all over his lap. The flight attendant comes by. She's apologetic, wants to know, what can I do to help you? And he says, well, I'll tell you, this is our 50th anniversary trip. We've never been on a flight before. This is our first time on a plane. Is there any way you can help us celebrate? I'll bring you a bottle of wine. I'll be right back. She goes to the front, comes back with a bottle of wine, hands it to him, make sure it's open, hands it to him. He stands up and he gives a beautiful toast in honor of his bride for 50 years. And then he dumps the wine on the head of the man. And according to the pilot, the entire plane roared with laughter and applause. This again here.
You can put that in your pocket if it's easier.
I'll do that. I hope we didn't break the earlobes of everybody online. So, but do you see where I'm going? It was his hurry sickness that turned that man into really a beast. And by the way, I do like the story. There's violence, there's revenge, there's love. It's all the good pieces of a great kind of story. So, three things I'll say to you today. First one is this: in love and life, it's best to lead with your heart. In love and life, it's best. I don't care what your position is, what your background is, what your profession was. In love and life, it's best to lead with the heart. About 10 years ago, when I was still in Kansas City, a good friend of mine who was a member of the church, he's still a good friend today, called me up and said, I want to have lunch. I could tell, you ever get a call where you can tell from the tone that it was something serious you want to talk about? We got to lunch, we cut right to the chase. You're not preaching from your heart. You're too much stuck in your head. I know you've read a lot of books. I know you've got degrees, but we need you to preach from your heart. I said, here's the thing. His name was Steve. I said, Steve, a year from now, if all I do is preach from my heart, you're going to take me to lunch and say, hey, what happened to the intellect that you used to bring to the pulpit? He said, maybe, but you're at your best and we need you to preach to us from your heart. Well, I was kind of irritated. I mean, he's a good buddy and a good friend, but I didn't like being told, that I wasn't doing my job well. And so I couldn't sleep. I woke up the next day and I called a mentor of mine. He was in the church you were talking about. My first boss, his name's Doug. I said, Doug, I need you to listen to some of my sermons. Can I send you 6 weeks of sermons to listen to? The first thing he said was, I thought we were friends. Thanks. Yeah. Anyway, could you listen to some? I need you to do some analysis. He said, of course, I'd be happy to send them to him. 2 weeks later, he called up. We went to coffee. He said, let me start with this. You've got skills. You've always had skills. Your exegesis, that's a fancy seminary word for study of the text. Your exegesis is great. Your theology is solid. Your hermeneutic, another fancy word, means interpretation. Your interpretive skills are fine. You really got great skills. I said, okay, go ahead. But you seem to be angry at the church, sometimes at yourself, at God. Now, anger is an appropriate emotion, but all 6 sermons had this kind of undertone of anger. And I'm just concerned about you. We had a wonderful, open conversation. And the last thing he said to me was, begin for your people in your heart. There may be moments you need to challenge them. There may be times that you've got to be pretty tough to broaden their minds, to help them understand things at a deeper level, but start always with your heart and the people will go with you. I've never forgotten his advice. I found a great quote from another writer who's down in Atlanta. His name is Andy Stanley. He says, every arena of life, listen, every arena of life intersects with what's going on in our hearts. Everything passes through on its way to wherever it's going. Everything. Everything in our lives intersects with our hearts. Have you ever been in the hospital for something serious? Have you ever been there to see someone you care for? There's cables and bells and whistles and beeps and nurses and doctors and all the rest. But what's hurt the most? When you see someone you care about and love undergoing difficulty and pain, maybe even sorrow and grief. It's our hearts that are broken. Our hearts that are broken in those moments. Now let me be clear. I want, when I go to see the doctor, I want him or her to have a great intellect. I want them up to speed on the latest things that are going on. I've torn both ACLs in both of my knees. I've had my knees reconstructed. Now I'm dealing with arthritis. An old basketball player, I hurt them to play in church league. Now here I am 20 years later, 30 years later, and I'm having some serious arthritis. When I go see the doctor, I want him or her to know the latest techniques that can help me and make my knees feel better, but I want him or her to care about me too. I want to know that deep down within that doctor's soul. In fact, the first knee doctor I saw to get my left knee repaired, I broke into a deep sweat. I had to sit down. I thought I was going to pass out. And he said, "What's wrong with you? It's not brain surgery. It's just your knee." It was kind of funny, but it was kind of irritating too. You know, it was like, okay, it's my knee that's being operated on here. I don't know about you, but I'm scared to death, whatever. I want them to approach us. I want those folks in those positions to approach us with kindness and care. I read a great review of a book in the New York Times just this week. I think it was yesterday that I saw it. The title of the book is A Genetic History of the Americas. It's by Jennifer Raff. She's arguing in this book, you'll see the connection in a moment. She's arguing in this book that the earliest Americans did not come by way of the Russia to Alaska ice bridge or whatever it was that formed thousands of years ago. Her argument is that they came by sea about 22,000 years ago. I don't know how much you know about all that stuff. I just was reading the paper and the title caught my attention. I read through it. But here's what I love the most. She said in this book review, we anthropologists, she's actually a geneticist, but geneticists and anthropologists, we do not work with lifeless old bones or inert molecules, but with the precious fragmentary remains of once living, breathing, thinking individuals who laughed, cried, lived, and died. She seems like a brilliant scientist, but I'm going to buy her book because of that quote. We handle the precious fragmentary remains of once living, breathing, thinking individuals who laughed, cried, lived, and died. Everything goes to the heart. When we bring our hearts to everything, our lives will be turned around. Number two, I don't have 3 points, so don't worry. Number two, learning to say I'm sorry is the most powerful tool in any relationship, whether it's friendship, husband, wife, spouses, partners, business workers, whatever. Learning to say I'm sorry is the most powerful tool you have in your love life, in your intimacy life. I was on a plane to Southern California a few years ago with some friends of ours in Kansas City, along with the president of a pretty well-known seminary. And she was sitting right across the aisle from me on a Southwest flight. And all of us were traveling out there to go see the Getty Museum in Santa Monica, which is a great place to go, get a chance to go out there. And we got into a conversation, a theologically nerdy one about Richard Rohr, who's a great writer. He's a monk in New Mexico, who's written a lot of stuff. If you've read Richard Rohr, you know that he's brilliant. And I just casually said, boy, when I discovered Rohr, he really turned my life around. I was dealing with a lot of issues, and when I found his writing, honestly, I feel like he saved my life. I was going to quit and go sell beer at Arrowhead Stadium and just, not worry about the ministry or anything else. And then she said, well, that's nice, but his understanding of the Trinity is weak. And she went on a 15-minute lecture about his theological weaknesses. And then she looked at me and said, I'm sorry, I've been talking a long time. Did you have something else to say about Rohr? I said, yeah, he saved my life. Next morning over breakfast, she found where my wife and I were sitting, and she came and sat down with us and said, I'm looking forward to the day, but I need to say this to you first. You started with how Richard Rohr saved your life, and I launched into a pretty severe critique of him and why I disagree with some of his points of view. And I totally ignored the fact that he was helpful to you. And I want you to know, I'm sorry. We sat there and cried over our eggs and bacon and coffee and whatever else we were having, because that was a powerful moment. If you want to be in a relationship with somebody, you've got to learn to use the most important tool. Now listen to this quote from Rohr. And if you don't like him, don't tell me, because he saved my life. Your heart has to be prepared ahead of time through grace and mercy and love and forgiveness, so you can keep your heart open in hell when hell happens. I'm not talking about hell as a place you go when you get punished. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the hell we experience now. Have you ever been to hell?
It's a town in Upper Michigan.
Have you ever been in a hospital and had to say goodbye to someone you love? Have you ever heard a doctor say to you the ugliest word in the English language? It's cancer. Have you ever been to hell? What Rohr is saying is, when we have the ability to forgive each other and build on those relationships, then when we find ourselves in those terrible, horrible moments, we have the courage and the skill we need to face whatever it is. A few years ago, the church here in Columbus, this little third grade boy, we give out Bibles to our third graders once a year. He talked to me afterwards. Pastor Glenn, can I talk to you? Yes. And he told me about somebody at his school who was bullying him, who was beating him up, who was being mean to him. He may not use the word hell, but he's been there. And the main thing I wanted him to know was, I know your mom and dad, and I know they love you. And I want you to know this: your church loves you, and anything you need us to help you with, we'll stand there. I'll go with you to school to stand with you and hold your hand if it helps when you tell the principal about what's going on. When we're able to be in love with each other, and I mean that in the broadest sense, we have the skills and the tools we need to face anything, even hell itself. And oftentimes that begins with the willingness to say, I'm sorry. Steve Leder is a good rabbi out in Los Angeles. He says that in every wedding he performs, he tries to make the ceremony as personal as possible for the couple, but he also lets them know that things in their married lives, see if this resonates, will come and go. Jobs will come and go. Apartments, houses, homes, places to live will come and go. Even children will come and then go. Hopefully they go. Things will come and go. And think of this too. I don't know how many of you are married. You don't need to raise your hand or anything, but if you're in a relationship for any length of time at all, I've been married 40 years. I got married when I was 10, just so you're clear. I'm not the person my wife married. She's not the person I married. But in those 4 decades of relationship, what we had to deal with is the coming and the going, the changing, the loss, the gains, and all of the rest. And the one thing Rabbi Steve says that keeps couples together is friendship. If you are friends with your spouse, with your lover, your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever it is, if you are friends with them, you can encounter the world itself and take it on, no matter what is coming or what is going. It's the ability to say, I forgive you, and I love you. And the greatest challenge is to put them together in one relationship. Well, the final point then is love takes courage. And how many of you have read Brene Brown? Any Brene Brown fans here? Some of you have one person. Well, good. Go read Brene Brown. She's really good. She says that the word courage at its root comes from the French word, and I took a year of high school French and I got a C-, so forgive me. It comes from the French word coeur. Am I saying it right? Yeah. Which means heart. At the heart of courage is the ability to love. The most courageous things you'll ever do in your life are those that your love calls you to do. Courage might be bravery in battle. Courage might be showing up at that hospital to see somebody who you know is in great pain. Courage might be having a hard conversation with somebody that you know needs to hear that hard conversation. Courage might be the ability to say to somebody, I'm sorry. I was wrong. My friend Adam is a great preacher out in Kansas City. He has 23,000 members in his church. It's a huge place, five different campuses and all the rest. But he has as much courage as anyone I've ever seen in my life. And he tells his story. By the time when he was in seminary, in graduate school, he was working 2 part-time jobs in a church. His wife had just given birth to their firstborn child. So she had quit her job. She's at home with a baby that was really difficult, very colicky, sick all the time, that sort of thing. And frankly, Adam says, he said this out loud in front of his entire church. It's in his book too. He said, I fell out of love with my wife. I didn't desire her sexually. I didn't desire her physically. I didn't desire her personally. I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't like being around her. And I just poured myself into my studies. I poured myself into my job at the church. And I was still supportive of her at home, helped take care of the baby, but I fell out of love with her. And he said one night, he felt this sort of nudge. And there was this voice in his head that said, go buy her flowers. And so I don't know if this happens to you. I have arguments with people in my head. Sometimes it happens during a sermon. That's really terrible. I think it's okay. No, you don't. He has a similar kind of argument. He's like, I don't want to go buy flowers. No, go buy her flowers. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Go find flowers. He finds an all-night store. He buys her some flowers. As he's standing there at the checkout, the voice says, you know, you got to get her a card. Flowers are enough. No, get her a card. He buys her a card. Now he gets home and that same voice says, write her a note. Write her a note. Tell her why you love her. Tell her. Okay. And this is what he wrote. His wife's name is Levon. Dear Levon, thank you for being such a great mom. Thank you for working all the time so I can go to school. Thank you for carrying more than your full load around the house. Thank you for putting up with me when I'm such a jerk. Thank you for smiling at me the other day and for the way your eyes lit up. Thank you for all that you've given to me. I am so in love with you. He began to realize that love wasn't just a feeling. Love wasn't something that came when the baby was cleaned up or gone or grown up or out of the house or whatever. Love was a choice. And he decided from that day forward that he would choose every day to make every day his married life together with his wife, Levon. By the way, I went over these notes this morning with my wife over coffee at about 6:45, and I said, I got to this part of the Adam Hamilton, the love letter that he wrote to his wife. I said, isn't Adam the most corny guy you've ever heard in your life? And she said, yes, that's why he's a good preacher. So we'll see how this talk goes later tonight. In terms of my own canal, I better get some flowers. You're right. No, but I'm hoping she gets me some flowers too. One final thing in conclusion. I read a book a couple of years ago called The Diary of a Pastor's Soul. It's by Craig Barnes, a really good writer. A former pastor, retired now. It's a fictionalized account, but I can tell they're real stories. He just changed the names to protect the guilty. And one of them is himself. He believed for the first 10 or 15 years of his ministry that if he worked really super hard all the time, his congregation would love him. Now, when I read that in his book, I laughed out loud because they're not going to love you if you work hard. We have this mistaken idea in the United States of America with the Protestant work ethic that we've inherited from 300 years ago, that if we work hard enough and we prove ourselves and we can earn our way, we'll earn our way into people's hearts. That's absolutely false. We find love when we give ourselves to each other in courage, vulnerability, and we lead with the heart. When we discovered, as Diana Ross and the Supremes said so many years ago, that you can't hurry love, we're already on the pathway towards finding it. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. If your heart's not one size bigger after hearing all that, I'm not sure what to tell you. Yeah, go buy a card for yourself. What happened to my script? I lost without it.
No, the script is here.
My script?
Yes.
Can I have it?
You want it?
I would love this. Fantastic.
So would we.
Yeah, I know, right? You don't want me shooting from them. Yes, again, thank you. Great presentation. Our program next week will be given by Pat O'Loughlin, president of the Ohio Electric Cooperative. And he's going to be talking to us about the electric supply and alternative energy sources. It's sure to be an electrifying presentation. Right? You know.
How much does he charge?
Oh, well, that's a good one.
0.2. I'm sorry.
All right. And before we wrap up, of course, we have a wrap.
Right, we have a whopping $9, including Court's $2 bill. So let's take a look here and see what we have. Kind of sticking together. Okay, it is the last four are 6683.
6683.
Court.
Court. Yeah, cards are up here. They're spread.
They're spread.
Oh, they are? Oh,
We're ready.
I got my glasses on. Okay. Okay, the last four are 6655.
6655. Oh, Mr. Miller.
You're always a winner. Jim, you're always a winner.
I feel like we see the same names. We need to put a limit on buying tickets or something.
Yeah. You always buy as usual.
47. You can hurry, Jim.
It's not good for his heart, or maybe it is good for your heart.
Can't hurry. Can't hurry. That's good. It's black.
6 of spades. No good. Thank you for playing. Watch out for the tripping hazard now. All right. And in conclusion, as you all know, we will finish with the four-way test. So if you will repeat after me of the things that we think, say, and do. First,
is it the truth?
Second,
is it fair to all concerned?
Third,
will it build goodwill and better friendships?
And fourth,
will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and we are adjourned. Thank you.